Now, you don't mind if I sit, do you? We're good? Okay, good.
Where did you come from?
Alabama. So let me tell you a little bit more about myself. So for the past 15 years, I've been traveling the country, talking to the conservative choir, Tea Party, liberty advocates, and talking and teaching conservatives how to become better messengers of liberty. Teaching conservatives how to have conversations with people, not confrontations. Teaching conservatives how to trump the race card, pun intended. And so for 2 years, I was an advisor to President Trump on Diversity Coalition, helping the campaign with messaging. My thing is messaging. I was advising them how to craft a message that will resonate with blacks, Latinos, young people, women. It doesn't matter. Non-affiliated voters. How to do that? Well, they didn't listen, but we were there advising them. So I bring you greetings from the warm state of Alabama.
How warm?
It was like 70 degrees last couple of days. Yeah, I had to cut the grass. And so I'm thankful for the opportunity to come and speak to you, and I thank God that you took the time to come out. So I don't take that for granted, and I'm gonna be very respectful of your time. But like I said, my thing is messaging, and as you well know, that we're in some difficult times right now, and the red wave didn't happen on a national basis, but I'm optimistic that we're going to win this thing. But there's certain things that we have to do. I recently read an article. It was a poll, ABC poll came out. They said that 71% of Americans believe our country is heading in the wrong direction. 71%.
It's probably greater.
71%. That means 71% of Americans agree with conservative values. They don't like the direction that the liberals are taking us. They agree with us, but we got to know how to connect with them when it comes to messaging. So here's what I've been advocating for the past 15 years. The left, I really hate to say this, the left has done a masterful job of demonizing the word conservative and the word Republican. When you tell someone you're a conservative, you just admitted to them that you're a racist. And the attack is on. The left has demonized the word. If you tell somebody you're a black conservative, that's what I'm saying, but that's not what people are hearing. Black conservative, you're a black racist. If you tell somebody you're a Reagan conservative or a Christian conservative, that's what you're saying, but that's not what people are hearing. You're a Christian racist. You're a Reagan racist. If you tell somebody you're a Tea Party conservative, now you are a racist. Right? And the left has demonized that word. I know you may not like hear me saying this, but I know you agree with me.
Yeah.
So we have to stop using the word conservative. I've been saying this since 2008. Stop using the word conservative. Come up with some other way to identify yourself. Let me play this audio for you. You're going to recognize this gentleman's voice here. Let me set this up for you. This talk show host that you're going to hear, he made these comments back in 2018, November 28, during the second hour of his show. About a few months before this, I got a call from his show. And they said to me, "We're following you. We like what you're doing. Keep it up." So listen to this audio.
I don't like having to say this, but being honest with you and with myself is paramount. And I can tell you, and you know this without me telling you, that if conservatism and liberalism are brands, The left has succeeded in destroying the brand of conservative. All you have to say the word conservative and they think you're talking about a Nazi or a racist. Pushing conservatism is not the answer. So what I would suggest to you, when you're out and about and you're doing, if you run into an occasion where you have the opportunity to talk politics, people that don't agree with you, do not use the word conservative. Do everything else, but don't call yourself that. Don't promote it. We've got a brand problem. It's time I hate it. I hate having to admit it. Get rid of it. Stop calling yourself that. Just be one. Just talk to people as one. You know what I think? I think you're going to find, if we do this, that you're going to have far more people agree with your solutions than will disagree if you don't identify yourself first as a conservative when talking.
So you see that Rush Limbaugh agrees with me.
I was going to say Rush.
Okay? So stop using the word. If we're serious about saving our nation, turning Connecticut from blue to red, you got to stop doing things that you know are going to lead to failure. And one of those things is using a word that puts you under the fence and you never win. If you're a candidate running for office and you tell somebody you're a conservative candidate, you just gave somebody a reason not to vote for you. Because the left has demonized that word, right? So the question is, K.Carl, if you say that we should stop using the word conservative, and Rush agrees with you, how should we identify ourselves? I'm glad you asked the question.
Americans.
Let me tell you this. Let me share this story with you. As I share my testimony with you, you will see yourself in my testimony. So several years ago, I was invited to a friend's home to watch our favorite football team play on television. There were 18 to 20 black Democrats who were there, all black Democrats. And that night, the subject of politics came up. When I shared with my friends that I was a conservative, the attacks began. One after another, they called me everything but a child of God. Uncle Tom, foot shuffler, house nigger. Your parents must be disappointed in you. How good did you do such a thing? I mean, their insults ran the gamut. So I went home that night thinking and mostly praying about, how can I win this narrative? How can I, as a conservative, be on the offense and not the defense? How can I engage my family members and my friends without the fear of them calling me an Uncle Tom? How can I educate and awaken them about what's going on in our country? Let me ask you this. How many of you right now are dealing with a family member or a friend that's been Marxist indoctrinated?
That's a whole neighborhood.
How many of you are frustrated not being able to awaken and educate your Marxist indoctrinated family and friends? Yeah. So I went home that night thinking about, how can I do this? So over a period of time, the aha moment came when I created something or invented something called the Frederick Douglass Republican Engagement Strategy. It's a persuasive messaging model. So about a year later, I invited those same 18 to 20 black Democrat friends of mine in my home to watch our favorite football team play on television, and reluctantly, they all came. And that night, once again, the subject of politics came up. They said, oh, K.Carl, he's a conservative. I said, wait a minute. I'm more than a conservative. I'm more than a Republican. I am a Frederick Douglass Republican, and I believe in the life-empowering values of Frederick Douglass. Respect for the U.S. Constitution, respect for life. I believe in economic prosperity, free market principles, free speech, women's rights when it came to women's suffrage. I believe in legal immigration, parental school choice when it comes to education, the right of the people to keep and bear arms. See, Frederick Douglass wrote about each one of those, what we call values. Those are not issues, those are values. And the reason why we call them values because issues divide, values unite. You follow me? When I shared with my friends that night that I was a Frederick Douglass Republican and told what I believed in, all of them started talking about how they were a Frederick Douglass Republican too. It worked. For the first time in my life, I had the confidence, the knowledge, and the skill on how to trump the race card, and I'd have a conversation and not a confrontation. So tonight, before you leave here, I'm going to teach you how to trump the race card. I'm going to teach you how you can have conversation with people and awaken within them a passion for liberty. Now, it don't work on those who are making the Kool-Aid. No, you got Kool-Aid makers and you got Kool-Aid drinkers. Now, the Kool-Aid makers, the devout Marxists, it's not going to work on them. But these people who've been indoctrinated into Marxism, it works on them because most people who've been indoctrinated into Marxism have never heard the liberty message of Frederick Douglass. Never heard it. So let me give you a quick class on Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass was born in 1818 in the Eastern Shores area of Maryland. The way I like to put it, because Frederick Douglass was born into slavery, he was born below poverty. Slavery is below poverty. Keep that in mind now. Slavery is below poverty. He never owned a pair of shoes until he was 8 years old, never slept in bed to age 10. He started his own homeschooling program to learn how to read and write. And you know why he did that? The reason why he started his own homeschooling program, like many people today, because Frederick Douglass, he rejected the slave master's Common Core curriculum. Y'all get that? Y'all get that? Okay. Okay. Let me fast forward a little bit. Frederick Douglass had 0 days of formal schooling. 0 days of formal schooling. He was an advisor to 5 Republican presidents: Abraham Lincoln, Ulysses S. Grant, James Garfield, Rutherford Hayes, and Benjamin Harrison. Frederick Douglass wrote 3 autobiographies. He's the only person in history that I know of that has 3 autobiographies. He didn't have a ghostwriter. Trivia question for you. Frederick Douglass passed away in 1895 at the age of 77. How much money do you think Frederick Douglass had in savings at the time of his death?
Wow.
2 million.
2 million, okay.
I was going to say about $1 million.
$1 million. Don't give me the inflation dollars now.
Yeah.
Okay, million. Huh?
Yeah, was that? I would say
10,000?
I'm going to go something low. I'm going to say he only had about 1,000.
1,000, Eric?
I think he owed some people some money.
Eric?
200,000.
200,000?
20,000.
20,000? 500. Now remember, he was a slave for 20 years. Okay, that was not retroactive pay. Okay,
I said 1,000.
1,000. Miss anybody?
Danielle?
No
I'm not
idea.
sure, but
No idea.
I'm just going to throw it out there. $500.
$500.
She already got that.
Yeah.
$200.
$200. So at the time of his death, a man who was a slave for 20 years, he had $300,000 in savings. In today's money, that's over $30 million.
Wow.
Well, think about it now.
So Eric was the closest.
Yeah, he was. That's inspiring. Reason why, when I put on my motivational speaking hat and I go across the country and talk to young people, I tell them that success is not a secret. Success is a system, and I always leverage Douglass as an example. and I talk about Douglas' action plan for success, it resonates with them more powerfully because no one today can out-victimize Frederick Douglass. These kids, you're in poverty, but you're not a slave. Douglass was a slave. So
Their minds were never enslaved.
that's right.
Someone taught me
Yeah,
that. And
that's right. That's right. So that's the life of Frederick Douglass. Now, when it comes to the writings, the literary legacy of Douglass, this is what we need to learn and leverage to win the control of the narrative and inspire people about the importance of liberty. Okay? Here's a provocative statement for you. I'm saying this, I'm in Connecticut saying this. What Frederick Douglass had to say about liberty and the U.S. Constitution is more important what any of the founding fathers had to say. That's heresy, K.Carl. That's blasphemy. Let me prove my point. The founders gave us two magnificent documents: Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. Right? Now, some of the founders owned slaves. So when it comes to liberty, the founders are tainted and the left exploits that. These racist men owned slaves, therefore they gave us this racist document called the Constitution, right? On the other hand, Frederick Douglass didn't own any slaves. He was a slave. Frederick Douglass was not a racist, he was a victim of racism. But in Douglass's writings and in his speeches, he affirmed the founding fathers, he affirmed the Constitution, and the left has no answer for that. Let me give you an example. Douglass said this one time about the Constitution. He said this, quote, "The Constitution reads, 'We the people.' It does not read, 'We the white people.'" End of quote. Douglass concluded by saying, if black folks are considered to be people, then they should be benefactors of the Constitution. Douglass concluded and said, the problem is not with the Constitution. The problem is in the application of the Constitution. The problem is not with the Bible. The problem is in how the Bible is applied. So thank God we have this literary legacy of Frederick Douglass to refute the lies and the false rhetoric of the left. They absolutely has no answer for him. Let me tell you why Douglass is so key. When you think of the left, who was their hero? Karl Marx. Their whole philosophy is based on the writings of Karl Marx. Isn't that right? So the left on this side have Karl Marx. We on this side, who do we have? No, we don't. Well, Douglass is out there. He's not on the team yet.
Lincoln, Reagan.
Yeah, but my thing is, if they got Karl Marx, put Douglass on the team and let Douglass go against Karl Marx. Let me share something with you. Karl Marx and Frederick Douglass were both born in 1818.
Oh, that's interesting.
Karl Marx was born in Germany. Karl Marx, in my view, was a poster child for white privilege. His daddy was a lawyer. He married into money. Engel helped provide for Karl Marx financially. And Karl Marx became a theorist about oppression. On the other hand, Frederick Douglass, born into slavery, didn't know his father. Well, the rumor was Douglas' father, because Douglas was a mixed race. Douglas' father was his slave master. Douglas' father, his slave master, put Douglas in slavery. Douglas had real life experiences about oppression, not just a theory. Douglas is all about our God-given rights. Karl Marx is all about government and being obedient to the government. You see the contrast? Sure. There's there's a card we produce. It's a 6x9 card. It has both images. It has an image of Frederick Douglass and Karl Marx. And it says at the top, who do you follow? When you want to get somebody to have an awakening and you lay out and you compare the life of these gentlemen, and it ends up with Frederick Douglass, the bottom says liberty. On the bottom of Karl Marx says slavery. Because think about it. The techniques of oppression, used by the plantation slave masters are identical to techniques of oppression used by the slave government.
Sure.
The same techniques. Douglass, so what you hear me saying is this. Douglass, in my view, is America's greatest liberty messenger. He was a slave. How can you win an argument with a runaway slave by his admiration for the founding fathers, his admiration for the Constitution? When Douglass talked about the importance of free speech, parental choice when it comes to school, Douglass wrote about parental choice when it comes to education.
We had a run-in.
Yeah. So when you leverage what Douglass had to say, the left is leveraging what Karl Marx has to say. We got to put Douglass in the game. Give him the ball. Don't call any special plays. Just get the hell out of the way. Let Douglass run. Douglass wins all the time. So for the past 15 years, I've been traveling the country preaching to the conservative choir, empowering the choir how to go out and bring in new choir members that's more diverse, and giving the choir a new song to sing. Called it the Frederick Douglass Republican Melody or something, right? Douglass is the answer. So how do you trump the race card? First, you got to change your political identity. Stop using the word conservative. So you say you're conservative, you're already an automatic on the defense. It's not going to work, hasn't worked. What do you say instead? I'm a Frederick Douglass Republican. So what is a Frederick Douglass Republican? A Frederick Douglass Republican is a person who embraces the life-empowering values of Douglass. It's not about being black. It's about values. What are those values? Respect for the U.S. Constitution, belief in a free market system. I don't use the word capitalism because that's Karl Marx's word.
Thank you.
Free market system. Free speech. Douglass was in Boston. He gave a speech entitled A Plea for Free Speech in Boston. And Douglass gave this powerful quote. He said, quote, tyrants cannot tolerate free speech because they know the power of it. And the first thing the left want to do is attack what? Free speech. Well, that's the second thing. The first thing they want to do, they want to move God out of the way. And Douglass wrote about this. Douglass said the first aim of slavery is to separate a man or a woman from their God. Why? Because Jesus Christ, God and socialism cannot coexist. Because the government can't have you being obedient to something that's above them. So you got to remove God out of it, where your loyalty is to them and not to something superior to them in your mind's eye. So in slavery, they had to get rid of God. Marxism, socialism, they got to get rid of God. Where you then focus on man, sinful, depraved fellow men. That's the left. Douglass wrote about these things. So don't use the word conservative. Leverage Frederick Douglass. The teaching point is this. That phrase, Frederick Douglass, is such a powerful phrase because for a lot of people, that's an oxymoron. Frederick Douglass is icon of liberty. Because of negative propaganda, Republican is icon of racism. Liberty, racism, the two just don't go together. So when you tell someone you're a Frederick Douglass Republican, you gotta know what the content is that follows. You gotta know what to say. You just can't rely on the phrase. You gotta come with some content. So back in 2011, my brother and I wrote this book. It's called Frederick Douglass Republicans, the movement to reignite America's passion for liberty. This is not a dissertation on the political thoughts of Douglass. What this book is, it is a conservative action handbook. It teaches you how to leverage the Frederick Douglass Republican engagement strategy. Okay? This book comes with 5 engagement cards. See, the book is for you. That's your training mechanism. The card is what you give to someone to help them have an awakening. So this card is entitled Values Unite. So on this card, it's a 6x9 card, front and back. It is on this card, they have the 12 life empowering values. And
Did you bring some books?
I did, yeah. I just want to show this to you. This card has the 12 life empowering values of Douglass. Okay, these are things Douglass wrote about. He talked about the right of people to keep and bear arms. What Douglass said about that. The limited power of government. What Douglass said about that. Teaching point. When you say I believe in limited government, the left will turn that around on you and say, oh, you believe in limited government. You won't take folks' entitlements away. The way you should articulate that, I believe in the limited power of government, or I'd like to keep more of the money that I make. You follow me? What did Douglass say about personal responsibility? Douglass wrote about respect for life. Douglass wrote about the U.S. Constitution. I shared that with you earlier. Economic prosperity. Women's rights when it came to women's suffrage, not abortion. Religious liberty. Education, parental rights when it comes to education, parental choice. Free speech, immigration, the right to vote. So when you give this card to someone, the word conservative is not on here. The word Republican is not on here. When you give this card to someone and they read what Douglass had to say about these are really core conservative values, aren't they?
Yeah.
We don't call them conservative values, though, do we? We call them what? Life empowering values. In lieu of saying conservative values, they're life empowering values. And conservative values are life empowering, right?
Yeah.
In other words, these 12 principles, these are the tenets of liberty, aren't they? We got to keep these tenets to save the republic. We can't lose any of these 12. Douglass wrote about all of them. So when you give this card to someone, and we test marketed this several years ago, and they read what Frederick Douglass had to say, keep in mind, most folks who are liberal, who have been indoctrinated into Marxism, have never heard the liberty message based on Frederick Douglass, who they can't play the race card on. People change how they vote. If you want to get more non-affiliated people to vote conservative, if you want to win some elections, Connecticut, y'all got to get some of those non-affiliated voters, right? Let me tell you how to do it. Democrats too. Because remember now, 71% of Americans think we're going the wrong directions. Some of those are Democrats. You know how we can win?
Get rid of the Dominion machines.
That's we got to do that first.
Yeah.
We got to stop the cheating. The cheating got to stop. We got to stop the cheating. But here's how you win elections in Connecticut and turn Connecticut red and get more people to vote conservatively. How? Write this down. Get rid of the word conservative. Because here's why. If I tell my friends or my parents that I'm voting conservative now, or I'm a Republican now, what do you think is going to happen to me when I go back home? I may be taken out of the wheel. I may lose my job. What's that guy who was on that show this weekend, Saturday Night Live?
Oh, Woody Harrelson.
He was calling like it was, right? Like it is. What happened to him? They kicked him out. He needed Frederick Douglass. Well, they don't even have a sense of humor anymore. Well, no, not toward conservatives. They can do all kind of crazy stuff.
Woody Harrelson's not a conservative.
But he told the truth.
He did.
Even though he's not a conservative, telling them the truth, they gave him the riot act, didn't they? Here's what we got to do. See, what happens is we got to teach people how to deal with the pushback they're going to get when they align themselves with conservatism. Because that word's been so demonized. You follow me?
Oh, yeah.
You got to teach them how to deal with it. How do you deal with it? You leverage Frederick Douglass. That's how you're going to get people to come across the line.
I'm on the school board. I'm
Yeah.
Becky, by the way, here in Stamford. And some of this is policy, too. They're playing games with policy. So luckily, I was able to get them into something so we're, going to be doing it objectively. But I've seen that game playing, too.
Yeah.
If you're not up on policy, they'll play games with
That's
that.
right. That's right.
And that's what's happened with the Common Core / the CRT. And they don't like that when I say, wait a minute, parents have been taken out of it, that type of
They
thing.
want the parents out of it.
So, I mean, whether
Yeah.
or not I'm conservative or whatever, I have to say, it's not even American anymore, what we're working on with these kids. It's awful.
I mean,
It's
just
Marxism
to-
indoctrination.
Sure it is.
It's so racist, CRT.
I would,
I mean, and I'm going head to head with, she's on the DCC.
here's
She's not
something.
a nice person.
Here's something keep in the back of your mind. I talked to a friend of mine who's a professor at Vanderbilt University. He was involved in the formulation of CRT. Here's what he told me. He said when CRT, it wasn't named CRT, it was named something else, when it was taught in law school, it started in law school, what it was an academic critique on how racism was used to formulate laws. They weren't talking about divisiveness. But somehow when it got to high school, they take the name CRT, but bring in the divisiveness. So here's what happens. It's almost like Black Lives Matter. It's a marketing game. If you tell somebody, oh, do you support Black Lives Matter? And you don't make the distinction, are you talking about the organization or the concept? The organization, I'm against the organization because the organization is Marxist. But I agree with the concept that Black Lives Matter. You got to make that distinction.
All lives matter.
Yeah. Now, don't say all lives matter because now you're mocking them. What you say is all Black lives matter from the womb to the tomb. Boom. Acknowledge them, but expand on it. But keep in mind, so what happens in school now under CRT, because in the black community, remember DeSantis got criticized for his move on CRT that he want to take. They say he don't want the good and the bad of history being taught. Remember that?
Yeah.
Because in the black community, what CRT is about telling the bad and good of history. They don't think about the divisiveness. They don't know that. We know about the device. In other words, you separating children by race to teach CRT, that's evil. That's divisiveness. You're creating animosity. So when you say you're against CRT, the left is playing chess. We're playing checkers. I'm against CRT. They spin that. Oh, you don't want true history of America being taught. You got to make sure you distinguish. I'm for teaching the good and bad of history so it's not repeated, but I'm not for the divisiveness how you're teaching it. Okay, it's the divisiveness how it's being taught. That's the problem.
But I'm wondering if Becky isn't making a different point here. When they're playing games, they're semantic games with the policy, right? But is it for the purposes of being more subtle about divisiveness when policies?
Yep.
So they're dead set on creating division.
Yeah, what they're doing, they give you something else to worry about while they go do something else.
Yeah.
What I would do, I would quote Frederick Douglass as much as often as I can in my meetings.
Bad.
So I do have some books here. Remember now, here's my capitalism joke. I'm using my capitalism word. The book and the cards, they come together. The books are free. The autograph in each book is $20.
The
Smart
cellophane.
salesman.
Oh, cellophane, yeah.
The cellophane that wraps it.
Yes.
That's $20.
Yeah, that's a set. That's a set. Did you understand my point about BLM? The left is playing a chess game.
Well, see, so I grew up in Montana.
Yeah.
Most of my classmates were Native American. So and they had no comeback for that.
But what?
When they interviewed me, the board of, their union, and I said, all lives matter.
Yeah.
And I said, because I grew up with Native Americans. And I said, how do you put those in the picture? They couldn't answer that.
Yeah.
But I'm unique because I'm from Montana.
Yeah. Well, see what
I lived here 35 years. I'm a nutmegger, but
my coaching point to you is I've been teaching for a while. You got to make sure when you they're trying to trip us up,
Yeah.
and when they trip us up, they're gonna attack. Black Lives Matter. When you say all lives matter, now you're mocking them. What you have to just acknowledge what they're saying, but take it further. All Black Lives Matter, from the womb to the tomb, because they're all for abortion, right? From the womb to the tomb. So you got to cover that, and they're doing the same thing with CRT. So Douglass is the answer. With sufficient support, financial support, you can turn Connecticut red in 1 or 2 election cycles. You know why? Well, here's what has to happen. If you're waiting on the cavalry to come, cavalry ain't coming. If you're waiting for a politician to come, a politician ain't coming. You and I, at the grassroots level, got to become a better messenger of liberty. We got to know how to talk to our family and our friends. And when you talk to them, they're going to have an awakening, especially when they read the liberty message of Douglass.
Carl.
Yeah.
Carl, right?
K.Carl.
K.Carl. Okay. I think you said it very well too. You were at a football game, and the problem is a lot of us in our communities, we're not talking to each other.
We got to talk.
And we need football games. We need.
Well, the football game was on TV at my house.
Right. I understand.
Yeah,
that.
but you're right.
How you get people.
You got to talk. I mean, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He used to meet with members of the KKK on weekends. But the way you do though, you start with your family and friends. You start with your circle of influence. When I teach you this methodology, don't start going to a Walmart you normally don't shop at. Keep going the same one you've been going to, right? Start with your family and your friends, engage them. Don't go out and do outreach. Do in-reach. Your family and friends.
Because it's in our family.
Yeah, that's right. And you got to practice on them. Okay? Yes, sir.
So if I say to somebody, I'm a Frederick Douglass Republican.
Yes, sir.
Around here.
Yes, sir.
I've got a lot of explaining to do. First, I got to explain who Frederick Douglass
That's
is.
right.
Then the word Republican could be just as much
Yeah.
a trigger as he talks
It is.
about conservative.
It is.
So my personal preference,
Yeah.
I would like to say,
Yeah.
like my buddy on Sunday night at 9 o'clock on Fox says, I'm pro-America. I'm pro-student. I'm pro, rights. I'm against, you want to say what you're for. As opposed
Yeah,
to
yeah.
against. So that's how I would prefer to start. I want to start these conversations as easily as I can.
Frederick Douglass is the easiest way to go. Let me tell you why. With pro-America, that's limited. Because as a left, they're gonna spin it now. You pro-America, what you pro about? You pro-slavery? America used to have slaves, right? What you pro about? Huh? Slaves weren't free. So here's why Douglass is important, because Douglass wrote about the Constitution. All the things the left is attacking, he wrote about it. You got to leverage it. So here, go back to the scenario that you gave me. Around here, it's not just around here. 99.9% of Americans do not know the substance of Douglass. You and I have to know that. That's why you got to get K.Carl's book, right? So now when I'm engaging you, I know already, I know more about Frederick Douglass than you do, and I'm talking about Douglass. As I talk about Douglass, racism comes off the table. Why? You don't expect a white conservative to say, I hold Frederick Douglass in high esteem. I agree with Douglass' life and power and values. Now, you're driving the narrative. And race is not an issue.
And I can tell you as a teacher, they don't teach about Frederick
No, they
Douglass.
don't.
I
They don't.
never learned about it.
What I just shared with you tonight about Douglass, you know more about Frederick Douglass than 90% of Americans.
I think it's worthwhile explaining who Frederick Douglass is.
Yeah.
When you talk about it.
Let me role play with you. Let's role play. Let's say you go back home. You got family members not even talking to you anymore because you're a conservative. They probably unfriended you on social media. Stop inviting you to Thanksgiving dinners. They probably block you from seeing grandchildren anymore because you got these conservative values. And you're probably considering taking some of your grandchildren and children out of your will because they're so Marxist, right? Somebody saying, ouch. Okay. So you role play. Go back and see them. Say, guess what? You know what? I'm not a conservative anymore. They're going to look at you with hopes, right? You're not a conservative anymore. No. I just really learned I'm a Frederick Douglass Republican. And you see this card here? I agree with these values. Take a look at that card. This is what I believe in. And it's a quote from Frederick Douglass, all those values. They're going to look at you. You know what they're going to say? I believe in these too. I believe in these too. That word conservative is killing us. So pro-America, it's not enough because, see, what reason why you leverage Douglass wrote about the 3/5 clause. Douglass wrote about the right of people keeping bear arms. Douglass wrote about women's rights. Douglass wrote about the Constitution. All the things that left is attacking, that brother wrote about it. That's why you got to leverage Douglass. When I played the piece on Rush Limbaugh, he went halfway there. His solution was to identify yourself as a problem solver. That's not enough. Because it's going to come up later, what do you believe in? Leverage Douglass. You can't get better than Douglass. You can't get better. I'm sorry. Those guys you can't get better than Douglass.
I find in my family there's a lot of issues around religion. So abortion, that is a huge one.
Unfortunately, that wasn't the issue in Douglass' time. Abortion wasn't a major issue at that time. But Douglass was an ordained preacher, by the way. He was an AME Zion preacher. I have my brother has young sons. One's in college, one going into college, and I had to make sure, even with my own children who are a little bit older, that when they went to college, they're not coming back as little socialists.
That's right.
What did I do? I made them read Douglass' autobiography. I gave them a political identity that they could use and have a conversation with people, not being attacked. Frederick Douglass, Republican. I said, don't use the word conservative now. Use the word conservative, they're going to put you on a rail and run you out of town. Okay? So I have an 11-year-old son, and they had a mock election last November. Not last November, when when they stole the election. And they studied the two-party system, Republican, Democrat. So they went around the classroom asking the students, these are fifth graders, right? Little Susie, you're a Democrat or Republican? I'm a Democrat. Joe, I'm a Republican. So when they got around to my son, his name is Kyle. Kyle, you're a Democrat or Republican? He said, neither. I'm a Frederick Douglass Republican. So I got a call from the school, had to go up to the school. Ended up giving a presentation to the teachers. You see what I'm saying? I like what they're saying, but that doesn't go far enough. We got to put Douglass in the same arena with Karl Marx. That's what I'm telling you. That's the answer.
Does that card define any of that difference? Because I find a lot of the college kids, they want to argue that one, you know.
Oh, about Karl Marx? About what?
Socialism.
This, not in this book. I got another book coming out 1 May. It's entitled Telling Conservatives the Truth, where I really get into Douglas Karl Marx comparison and making Douglas' liberty message relative for today so people can understand what's going on.
You have cards with that too?
Yeah, yeah. So I have books here. I have a course that we came up with, online course. Because I can't be doing this all. We're trying to grow a nationwide liberty movement.
Kimberly Fiorello brought you in to talk to the Charter Oak Leadership Group too. Am I correct?
Back in December.
You were a saving grace for this.
You were there?
I wasn't, but I was with a bunch of them commuting.
Oh, okay.
And just you were very helpful.
I'm speaking to her group
On
Thursday.
So that's
Thursday.
so the Federated.
The Farm or something like that.
Oh. And that'll be fun.
Farm across.
And then tomorrow I'm speaking.
I mean, she lost.
You ever heard of the Gaffney Foundation? Gaffney Foundation in Greenwich.
Yes, I've heard, I mean, if it's the same Gaffney I'm thinking of.
He was a superintendent one time.
Oh.
But anyway, the daughter, in honor of her father, has the Gaffney Foundation. What she does, she takes disadvantaged students and the talented ones, pull and works with them and gets them into Princeton, all the Ivy League schools. I talk to them tomorrow night. Wednesday, I'm talking to.
I have to check the itinerary.
Yeah, I'm talking. Who am I Wednesday? I'm talking to.
This is good.
Oh, the Greenwich Concerned Parents, I think it is.
Yes, that's right. Concerned parents.
Oh, Greenwich Patriots.
Yeah, Greenwich Patriots. Ingrid Hain.
That'll be good.
So, make sense to you? Did I answer your question?
Yeah,
You still stuck on that?
I think.
I
Douglas was pro-American.
Huh? I'll say this. This whole Frederick Douglass Republican engagement strategy that I'm sharing with you, it is not of human origin. It was not given to me by any man, nor was I taught it. I received it by divine revelation from Jesus Christ. Don't change it.
Okay.
Don't change it. It works. That oxymoron. When you tell somebody you're a Frederick Douglass Republican, you just broke their brain. You just put a curiosity into their mind, and they want to know what you're talking about. That's when you take control of the narrative with content. And then you can get Doug. I'm going to tell you this quick story. So I was advisor of President Trump. I live outside Birmingham, Alabama. Had to fly to D.C. for a meeting. So on my way to D.C., flying Delta, I had to stop in Atlanta for a connecting flight. So I'm at my gate in Atlanta airport wearing my Trump cap. Wait. I'm in Atlanta airport at my gate wearing my Trump cap. Black man, Atlanta airport, wearing my Trump cap. Now, the cap I had didn't have Make America Great. I had the presidential seal on it, Trump 45 on the bib, and Trump 45 on the back. See, I roll that cap because I'm trying to have a conversation, not a confrontation, right? So I'm at my gate, right across in front of me, with 3 members of BLM.
Okay. Oh my goodness.
They're going to DC too. We looked at each other. I looked at them, they looked at me. I looked at them, they looked at me.
I'm guessing you started.
I looked at them, they looked at me, and I said, "How do you like my cap?"
Good start.
Let me help you out with something here. Whenever you go into a bad neighborhood and you're not from that neighborhood, and you may see a group of 5 or 6 guys clustering around, and you start thinking about your health and welfare. What you do to save yourself, you walk up to them and ask them for 50 cents before they come and see if you got any money. You got to beat them to the punch, right? So I had to beat them to the punch. And they said, you support President Trump. And I pulled a quote from Frederick Douglass. I said, I will unite with anybody who wants to do right, and nobody wants to do wrong. The conversation shifted to the Constitution. And they talk about how the Constitution is a pro-racist, a pro-slavery document. I shared with them what Douglass said. Because what they're telling me that the Constitution is a racist document referring to how the 3/5 clause means that blacks are 3/5 of a human being. I was taught that in college. That's what these kids are being taught. I shared that with them. I shared with them what Frederick Douglass had to say in 1861.
And that's fabulous. You didn't say to them, I'm a Frederick Douglass Republican.
Yes, I did.
Off the bat.
Oh,
You engage them in that,
no.
that quote.
For anybody who
Within the first 3 minutes, I said I was a Frederick Douglass Republican. Okay? I had to give them my identity. Okay? And so, but I started talking about the 3/5 clause. And they said they never heard that. What gave me that leverage was I leveraged what Douglass had to say. If you don't leverage Douglass, you're stuck like Chuck. Who you gonna quote? Who you gonna quote?
Yeah.
You gonna quote the founding fathers? I can play the race card on them.
Yeah.
You gonna quote pro-America? Who's that? You can't get no more pro-American than Frederick Douglass. Anybody who had a beef with America could have been Douglass. He didn't. Douglass is the answer. Yeah.
Didn't Douglass, I'm going to be bringing this up kind of over and over again.
Yeah.
Douglass really evolved
He did.
his thinking, right?
He did. Yeah.
You think of his famous speech, the Independence Declaration of Independence is hollow.
Yeah.
But after that, he came closer and closer to realizing, now wait a second.
Well, even then, what happened was when Douglass first escaped from slavery, his mentor was William Lloyd Garrison. Douglass believed everything the Garrisonians told him because Douglass wasn't much of a reader. And what the Garrisonians told him that the Constitution was a pro-slavery document. Douglass said, I believed that till I started reading it for myself. Douglass said, after reading the Constitution for myself, I have a change of mind. So you're referring to Douglass' most famous speech is, what to the slaves the 4th of July? That the left loves to cherry pick. When Douglass gave that speech, Douglass was right on. But Douglass said, you all asked me to come here and celebrate the 4th of July. Right now, there's 4 million blacks in slavery in the South. So what to the slave is your 4th of July? Yeah. So Douglass said that speech, he said, your flag, your anthem is a sham and a fraud. Douglass let him have it. The president of the United States was there. At the end of the speech, Douglass said, I need your help. Stop passing laws to tell blacks that they're created to be slaves. Stop preaching from the pulpit that blacks are destined by God to be slaves. And stop passing laws like the fugitive slave law to keep them slaves. Douglass, I need your help to save this country. So what Douglass did in that speech, he did something called a double reversal. He praised the founders for their revolution to fight oppression from the British. In the middle of it, he criticized the current atmosphere of having slaves. And these people celebrate the 4th, but you're not doing anything for people, 4 million people who are enslaved in the South. Then Douglass said, let's make America better. See, Douglass was not a revolutionist. Douglass was a reformer. Karl Marx was a revolutionist. Revolutionists tear up the Constitution, tear everything up, start over, put us in charge. Douglass said, no, keep the best that we have, including the Constitution, and make things better. That's Douglass. The answer is Douglass. It's not K.CarlSmith. It's not Candace Owens. It's not Charlie Kirk. The answer is Frederick Douglass.
What does Candace say about Frederick Douglass?
Don't say enough.
Okay.
Don't say enough. I just found this out. Kansas is doing a after-school project in the hood, where she's taking as an after-school program in disadvantaged communities. They call it the blue space, where black folks are, teaching the Constitution. How you gonna go to the black community, talk about the Constitution, you don't talk about Douglass? How can you do that? They kicked him out of Chattanooga. Black folks kicked Blexit out of Chattanooga.
But blacks kicked who out?
Blacks kicked Blexit out of Chattanooga.
Blexit is Candace Owens' movement, yeah.
Kicked them out.
Well, because she's probably
going there condescendingly, using the wrong word, conservative.
Okay, oh, all right.
But you go,
She's from Stamford, right?
yeah, yeah. But
They
I told them, I said it's problematic because I mean, we got to have young people, but you got to know what the heck you're talking about. I said, stop telling blacks that they should leave the Democrat Party and become Republicans. That ain't the answer. The answer is vote your values and let them figure out later where they want to land. Because when I become a Republican, I got some pushback I got to deal with. I may lose my relationship with my family. I may lose my job. I may be physically assaulted. Some folks ain't ready for that. But you want to tell them to switch, but don't teach them how to deal with the pushback. That's a disservice.
Did she hear you? Because
I don't think they're still doing it.
Can I ask a somewhat unrelated question?
Sure.
Can you share with us what you advised President Trump on?
I advise them on messaging. I tried to explain to the operatives.
Yes, right.
President Trump wasn't the problem. If the operatives around him is the problem. Because if they can't control a strategy that they did not create, they're gonna make sure it don't get through because they may get written out of the budget. I said, because the strategy was they wanted to push out there that all the great things the president was doing in terms of legislation, which was good things. Criminal justice reform, unemployment all-time low in the black community. He extended and increased the funding of historical black colleges. All those are great things. But even when he did that, when they did a poll, black folks still thought he was a racist. Right? And I tried to explain to them why. Here's why. And I gotta say, I'm a former Democrat. You have to understand, blacks, I'm referring to myself here, which is very general. When I voted Democrat, you have to understand through which biblical lens I viewed the world. And the way I view the world, a lot of folks today, they view the world through Proverbs 21:1. The heart of the king is in the hands of God. What does that mean? The heart of the king is in the hands of God. That means God is almighty. He can take a quote unquote racist president and use him to bless me. Criminal justice reform. Unemployment all-time low in the black community.
He also hardened the heart of the Pharaoh.
Yeah. So Trump didn't get the credit. God got the credit because why? God made the racists do it. We got to win this. We got to win this whole thing that we're racist. That's first. If we can't improve our brand, we'll never make Connecticut red.
he asked you to run as vice president yet?
No. See what I'm saying? If we don't improve our brand, change our label, we'll never turn Connecticut red. It's not going to happen under the banner of conservatism. Carrying that banner ain't going to work. Look where we are now. Yeah.
Okay, well, the people who need hear that message the most are the most deaf. That would be the Connecticut Republican Party.
Yeah. But that's why I love talking to Tea Party folks. Because now when I say my Frederick Douglass Republican, that means I'm not part of the no, I'll put it this way. There's a quote from Frederick Douglass. The Republican Party is bad. Democrat Party is worse.
Sure.
That's how I put it. Yeah. But no.
True now.
That's very accurate.
Probably Republican Party is bad. Democrat Party is probably evil now. Because they embrace infanticide and all that kind of stuff. Make sense to you?
Yeah.
I got to get you to say, don't use that. Don't get out there and say, I'm a pro-American. You're going to put yourself in harm's way. Douglas is your hood pass, man. But this whole strategy, though, I'm sharing with you, it's not a strategy how to talk to black folks. It's a strategy how to talk to anybody about your conservative values without using the word conservative. Make sense to you?
Sure. I just want to say, K.Carl, you need to keep moving, but you're making errors.
Oh, man, okay.
The other issue.
Good questions, by the way. Thank you for asking that question. I'm glad you brought that up.
It's huge in Connecticut. It's
What's that?
The Republican in name only.
The rhinos. Okay, what about them?
It's bad.
You got to get them out. You got to identify and vote the heck out. Vote them out. Get rid of them. That's the only way you're going to do it. That's why you and I.
Because you agree with everything.
That's right. We need more people like you all who are active, who are involved. And the way you're going to get people more involved, when you when you change your political identity, number one, folks going to come around you. They're not going to come around you while you're a conservative.
Right.
They don't want their picture be taken with you. Okay? Change that political identity. Leverage the liberty message of Douglass. Everywhere you go, leverage it. Know what to say. Learn the quotes of Douglass. Learn the life of Douglass. Get to the writings of Douglass. Get K.Carl's book.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay? That's the starting point.
Right.
And then go to my website, check out some videos I got out there. And later on, sign up for the online course where I break this thing down. Let me share this with you. Do you know why the word conservative has a racist connotation in the black community? You ever wonder why? So that night, when my friends attacked me about the word conservative, I became curious. I said, why are they wearing me out about this word conservative? I knew about the negative propaganda of the left, but I said, is there anything in history that helped me understand why the word conservative has a racist connotation? Let me share this with you. Can I share this with you? I don't have a PhD, but I've done some PhD level research. 1964, President Johnson, the Democrat, signed the civil rights legislation into law. Your racist, Democrat senators, they filibustered the bill for racist reasons. Follow me? There was a certain Republican senator. He voted against the bill not because he was a racist. He voted against the bill based on constitutional grounds. His name was Senator Barry Goldwater. Senator Barry Goldwater wasn't a racist. He was an integrationist. Okay? When Goldwater was 37, he inherited his family's department store. And he was the first business owner in Phoenix to hire black cashiers and went around the city of Phoenix encouraging other business owners to integrate their establishment. Senator Barry Goldwater, he integrated the Senate cafeteria 1953 in our nation's capital when one of his black staffers was refused service. Goldwater started the Arizona Air National Guard as an integrated union before Truman integrated the armed forces. So Goldwater was not a racist, but with his no vote, he sided with the racists. You follow me? Yeah. 2 points I'm gonna connect. Make sure you get this. What was Senator Goldwater's nickname?
Barry.
Mr. Conservative. What was the title of the book he wrote in 1960 that sold over 3 million copies? The Conscience of a Conservative. At the 1964 Republican Party National Convention held at the Cal Palace in San Francisco, the Party of Lincoln, the Party of Emancipation, the Party of Civil Rights, the Republican Party, who do they nominate as a presidential candidate to run against LBJ, who signed the legislation? Barry Goldwater. When that happened, black folks left the Republican Party en masse. My parents, who are no longer here today, they died 2 years ago. They contracted COVID. And my parents were murdered in the hospital with the CDC protocol of Remdesivir. That's another subject some other time. But my opinion, going to the hospital is a downgrade in healthcare. You better get you some ivermectin, some oil of oregano, keep in your medicine cabinet. So
Vitamin D from the sun.
and zinc. So when that happened, I grew up in Alabama. So I asked my dad. I said, Dad, what happened? He said, the Republican Party didn't want us, blacks. The Democrat Party was worse. So blacks became politically homeless. And then all the Dr. Martin Luther King lieutenants became Democrats. And the Democrat Party started courting black folks. I remember growing up, like Andrew Young. I remember growing up in Alabama, I heard the word conservative, Goldwater, Republican, and racist used in the same sentence. That's when the word conservative and the word Republican Party started to become culturally ingrained in the black community to mean racist. The word conservative in the black community is not the language of liberty, it is a language of oppression. You follow me? And Candace and some of these, they don't understand that. They wonder why they're getting pushed back. And what they tell black folks got to own the word. You don't tell Jews to own the word Nazi of their oppression. Come on. Come on. Get rid of that word. If you're serious about defending liberty, if you're serious about saving this nation, saving your state, get rid of that word. Don't stop being a conservative, okay? Get rid of that word conservative to identify yourself. It ain't working. It's not working. Hasn't worked in 40 years. We should never lost in November. Biden, come on. He's a scrub. We can't beat him. Of course, there were some mischievous things going on, but look, our messaging sucks. We don't have a message problem, it's messaging. You follow me? Put Douglas on your team. Become a Frederick Douglass Republican. Learn how to leverage that liberty message of Douglass. All right?
But